Hey everybody, Tom Alexander here. I've been asked a lot about having grown up in my dad's movie theater. My dad and his brothers had a movie theater. It was built it actually opened in 1938. It was opened by my grandfather, my father's father, and it was then passed on to his sons, and then I got a chance to work there. It was in Forty Fort, Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's the name of the town, Forty Fort, Pennsylvania. It's across the Susquehanna River from Wilkes-Barre, which is in the Pocono area of Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, about 90, 100 miles north of the Philly area. And that's where I grew up and spent many, many years there at the theater and being exposed to movies. And of course, in those movies, whether they were musicals or not, there was always music, right? So it was, no, it could have been a horror movie or could have been a drama or comedy. There's always background music, the musical score. And I've been asked a lot about how, um, you know, the music influenced or inspired the music I compose and play. Um, 10 albums now into this adventure, I have certainly been affected and inspired by that music. People like, well, obviously, John Williams kind of at the top of the list in terms of scores, but there were a lot of guys that wrote music, very beautiful, like romantic themes. Henry Mancini, Burt Bacharach, of course, did a lot of scores. Dave Grusin, amazing music. Guys like Jerry Goldsmith, um, Max Steiner. There was um, Bernard Herrmann. Many, many people that did the scores to these films. And I'm forgetting names off the top of my head right now, but they're plentiful. And oftentimes you would find scores that were uh, part of films that were not maybe even necessarily good films, or they might have even been just B movies, or just sort of campy sci-fi horror things that you'd see on at 2 o'clock in the morning on an independent UHF station. I'm dating myself, but anybody that's if you know, you know, as they say. Um, yeah, that music was hugely inspirational. You absorb this stuff over time, and it becomes um, something that just it inhabits you. I think in a lot of ways as a musician, as a composer, and so this music was huge. I can remember um, there was there, this is interesting because I actually had a chance to talk with this guy. His name is Bill Marks. And if the last name sounds familiar, well, it's spelled Marx. And if the last name sounds familiar, yes, connected to the Marx brothers. He was Harpo Marx' adopted son. Bill Marx, who I believe is still with us. I think he still performs out in California at jazz bars and plays solo piano. But he um, he scored a lot of movies in the late 60s, early 70s for American International Pictures. Now, if you've ever heard of American International Pictures, you may not know the name, but you've probably seen some of their movies. They released a lot of Godzilla movies and vampire movies and, you know, just strange titles like The Thing with Two Heads and Frogs and all these sort of campy drive-in movies. They later went on to do actually a few that really had a lot of success, like the Amityville Horror later in the 70s. And so these movies also played at my dad's theater and at the drive-in that we ran for a few years. And so these kinds of movies and the scores to these movies really had an effect. Now, one guy I'm omitting I mentioned Bill Marks, and I love the stuff that Bill Marks did for movies like Count Yorga, the Count Yorga Vampire, The Return of Count Yorga. I think he did the music for a movie called Death Master. These were all real, again, kind of real campy horror films. I think he might have even done the music for Blackula with William Marshall. Um, and just a lot of different movies from that era. But one of the guys that I absolutely loved was a guy named Akira Ifukube. There it is, Akira Ifukube from Japan. Wonderful composer, and he did a lot of the music for the Godzilla films and a lot of the monster movies from Japan that came out in the '60s and early '70s, primarily the '60s. And his scores were just fantastic, real inspirational to a lot of composers from that era that went on to do American sci-fi movies. He really had a unique style, and the themes for he would develop for each monster, those kinds of things, which is really cool stuff. A great musician, great music. So all this stuff kind of comes together. If you're somebody like me who loves to play, yes, my band when I go play with Earth Code, it's primarily a jazz fusion band. We incorporate world music into it, and but there's a lot of cinematic influence. And I'm really very lucky in a sense that I play with. I'm very lucky to play with guys that share that passion to always create new music and to try new things. And it's been an amazing uh, boy, more than 20-year stretch now, with my longtime musical partner, Tommy G. Lee, the drummer. And we've had a variety of folks come in and join us, playing either bass or guitar and sometimes percussion, different things. And uh, yeah, the theater music inspires a lot. The music that I remember from the theater in those days growing up, particularly in the 1970s, um, continues to inspire my music, my compositions. Um, Working on a project with my son right now. We're hoping to shoot this film here in the next several months. A horror movie that we've built a pretty good cast for, and we're in the process now of finalizing a few things. And um, the themes that I've written for some of these characters, because my son and I actually wrote the script together, so we understand the characters intimately, you know, the profile of each character. And so there's themes. So I'm able to kind of pre-write at least their themes and have general ideas for what the music could be, before even shooting the movie, which is unusual because let's face it, most people who score movies are brought into the project after or during production, and they don't have anything to do with having written the film. They're brought into the project. This is different. This is something that my son and I co-wrote, and so we're able to I have a pretty good handle on the characters and what their themes might be. Uh, so yeah, really that was kind of a long-winded description explanation of talking a little bit about how the music from my youth in my dad's movie theater informed, influenced, inspired what I do musically when I compose for the band and outside projects. I was told the other day, somebody said, "Boy, you just you don't seem to stop. And it's like, well, it's not only what I love to do, but it's cathartic. It's real therapeutic. If I don't play the piano every day for a little bit, I don't feel like I had a full day. Um, it's something that I love to be able to, even if it's for 20 minutes or something. I try to sit at the piano every day and perform. And for myself, I sit at the piano like it's sort of a connection to something bigger, to something. I don't certainly don't take myself particularly seriously, but music I take seriously. I it's I owe it to the music, and I can remember hearing ball players. I don't know, was it Joe DiMaggio or if it was Ted Williams or somebody? It might have been one of those guys, old timer, playing and said, I have to want to be at my very best because that might be the first time some kid sees me play. And I feel that way about music. When I sit down, even if it's for myself, I want to try to be as good as I can and learn something that day that I didn't know yesterday. And to me, that's an accomplishment. So I take that seriously. Myself, not so much. I just try, I just try to, get through a day just like everybody else. And but music, it's I like to dig in and push and see what's possible. And I really do have a lot of fun doing it. Um, One other thought that I have tonight as I sit here in my office, not at the piano, but which is a rarity for me, when I do these videos. But um, is about people who are they want to start playing, and it's like, well, I'm 50 years old, or I'm 60 years old, or maybe they're younger, maybe they're 30 or 40. It's like, and I never really played before. I played a long time ago, and I'd like to do it again. Yeah, do it. There's no rules. There's no, if it's something you feel like you need to do it, and don't worry about where you are that day. Musically, you know, just try to accomplish one thing. Try just say, I'm gonna just set realistic goals for that moment in time. Maybe it's just playing a scale, a major scale, with some level of clarity and dexterity or whatever it might be. And it's like, okay, you know what? I did that today, and maybe tomorrow I'll try something different. It could be that simple. And you know, you find that if you can make a little bit of progress every day, it can be very, very rewarding. Um, and I would recommend, the other thing I would say is that I would recommend listening as much as you can to music by real musicians, played on a real instrument, because um, you know, when I was really getting serious about music and learning how to play, I kind of immersed myself in a ton of music, and not just jazz or fusion jazz, which is kind of the thing I people sort of know me to play, with my band or solo. Um, but all kinds of music. My dad loved classical music, and that was the first music I heard. Classical music was like a is was and remains hugely uh, important to me and a huge inspiration to me. I love it. My dad loved it. And he passed it on to me, from when I was a really, really little kid. Tchaikovsky and all those guys and all the Russian composers and Shostakovich and Rachmaninoff, Rimsky-Korsakov and so forth, Mussorgsky. And the French composers also, Ravel and Debussy and Saint-Saëns and all these. guys. So listen to those guys, still do. Love that music very much. And but also to all kinds of stuff from around the world. You're going to hear things. It's endless. You can draw inspiration from many things. And sure, what's on the radio too. I don't listen too much to just contemporary pop radio. Really, I haven't in a long time. But I look for stuff that's maybe not in the mainstream. But that's me. That's just what I like. I like to search alternative things out and see what's out there. Um, and that might be kind of fun for you too. I don't know. You have everybody's got their own tastes, and everybody wants to try something. I really appreciate the feedback that I get on on the TikTok page, on Facebook, on Instagram. Um, I occasionally will, get I get great comments. They're wonderful, and I think they're just. I can't tell you how much it means to me, but I also sometimes will get direct messages from people, and they'll ask me questions, like sort of what inspired this particular video, and how having grown up in the theater in particular and hearing all that music um, inspired my playing, inspired my writing, composing. So feel free to direct message me or even put it in the comments, about, if you have any questions about the kind of music I do, or if there's something you are looking to do yourself that maybe I may be able to offer some advice, cheap advice. And when I say cheap, it's free. So it's really cheap. But um, last thing I'll mention is, I think the thing that inspires me most in terms of composition, in terms of things to write about, is what goes on around me. It could be something in nature, can be a memory of something I special, could be an emotion of some kind, something I might be feeling, um, people, places, things, that kind of stuff. But um, and I'd say 95 or more percent of my music is instrumental. I don't really write a lot of lyrics. I have, but not a lot. So it's cinematic because I grew up in the movie theater business, and so I'm inspired by that. I Imagery is number one in terms of inspiration. So anyway, that's just some random thoughts and sort of just riffing on the overall question is, how did the music from growing up in your dad's theater affect you, meaning me. So there you go. That's it. And hope you got something out of that. And I wish you the best in whatever you're doing. If you're doing something creative, continue and share it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.